Greetings, my name is Zach Eldred, student in the Doctor of Plant Medicine program here at the University of Florida. Today we will talk briefly about a few techniques and strategies utilized in managing diseases of tomatoes in organic high tunnel production systems in the Southeast. If you are interested in learning more about any of the topics covered during this video, please feel free to use the links at the end of the video to learn more. Before discussing the strategies and techniques, it is important to point out that the core of high tunnel disease management is integrated pest management, or IPM. And when we think of disease management, it is best to think of it as a cyclical plan that is always moving from one piece to the next. Please look at the diagram and think of how this would fit into your management plan. We will revisit this at the end. In general, disease prevention and the decisions you make before planting hold the most weight when it comes to having a successful crop. The actions you take leading up to planting, such as choosing a variety, rotating between crops, and even plant spacing, can all be important factors in limiting the potential for severe disease outbreaks. During our investigations into common high tunnel pathogens in Florida, we noticed a difference in the pathogens that affect open field crops versus those that affect the high tunnel crops. For example, many of the leaf spot and bacterial pathogens have seemed to be absent in our high tunnel trials. Knowing the common pathogens that occur in a high tunnel is important because it allows you to predict likely pathogens you may encounter during the season. If you can narrow the list of pathogens for your production system, it is much easier to develop a successful management plan. For ease of planning, we broke down our management system into 4 phases. Phase 1, pre-season planning. Phase 2, post-transplant management. Phase 3, late season decision making. And Phase 4, post-crop response. The first phase is what we like to call pre-season planning. This is when you want to plan all of the cultural controls and management techniques you intend to use. These decisions should be based on past diseases, likely pathogens, availability of resources, and your own limitations. A common strategy often begins with choosing disease-resistant varieties, such as for tomato yellow leaf curl virus. Another possibility is grafting for resistance, such as for root knot nematode. This phase is also a good time to start thinking about a few available fungicides or products you plan on using against common high tunnel pathogens. It is a good idea to plan for common pathogens like tomato leaf mold and powdery mildew because they are likely to show up at some point in your high tunnel. Planning ahead and having a few known products on hand will allow you to get a head start if you encounter these pathogens. This phase is also when you'll start to think about things such as transplant timing, plant spacing, and how you provide adequate airflow throughout your tunnel. Lastly, this is your final opportunity to sanitize and clean up any residue from last season. Your season's success will be determined predominantly by this phase. The second phase, or post-plant management, is when you implement those routine tasks that last throughout the season. Tasks such as scouting, monitoring, and keeping a keen eye out for early symptoms of pests and diseases. Early detection of most pathogens will improve your chances to mitigate diseases and extend your season. This allows you to begin intervention earlier, providing the best chance for the products you will use to work in managing diseases effectively. This is also a good time to begin tracking the weather and keeping a calendar of when symptoms start developing. This will help predict outbreaks in future seasons. Lastly, it is very important to obtain a diagnosis of any unknown pathogens you encounter. A local extension agent or plant disease diagnostics lab can help you with this. During the late season decision-making phase, you are either seeing the fruits of your diligence or the pathogen has taken over. In either case, at some point, you're going to have to make a few decisions on whether to keep managing pathogens or terminate and start planning for the next season. These decisions should be based on economics and the particular pathogen. If there is ever a question to which way you should go, a local extension agent can be a helpful resource in making this decision. The final phase, the post-crop response phase, is after the season ends. This is the phase right before you start planning for your next year and includes plant removal and rotation. It may coincide with pre-season planting of your rotational crop and is when you want to remove all diseased plants and get rid of any disease residue. Lastly, this phase is an opportunity to reflect and take notes on the previous season's outcomes. What worked, what didn't, and what changes could be made for next year. As mentioned earlier, disease management is a cycle of decisions that occur year-round. Techniques which include resistance and rotation, scouting and monitoring, chemical intervention, and all the way through to sanitation. These actions work together as one management system. On their own, they may provide some benefit, but together they provide layers of defense to help mitigate disease and extend your growing season. Lastly, it is important to note that diseases are common and should be dealt with appropriately, but with the proper planning and management, you can achieve a successful harvest. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please click the links in the description below to learn more about any of the topics covered here. And as always, reach out to your local extension agent for more information on how to apply any of the strategies discussed in this video.